Build procedures, train relentlessly, and empower your team to act without hesitation. I'm Nick McLean, and this is Million Dollar Team Principles. I'm committed to team growth in all things. If you haven't heard, we launched the very first weekly team meeting for team leaders every Tuesday. Reach out, find Team Growth Tuesdays for more information. From the year 2016 to 2018, running a real estate brokerage and team in Washington State, I literally woke up every day and wrote one procedure. That was my daily habit. Wake up. I was like, what would happen if I wrote a procedure every single day? And I would write this procedure, I'd put it in writing, I'd throw it in my drive. And then the very next day, I would train my agents on the very procedure that I just written down. And that feedback from the agents on my team would tell me what would work, what didn't work. Did they understand what I was saying? Where were the holes in the steps in the checklist? And the ones that we felt could be implemented and work, we put into play and we tested it in the field. And I'll give you an example of one you need to put into play right now. When you think about the listing process from a homeowner unaware of your brand or your team to a home tour to the listing documents to listing the home, break up that process in critical phases. As a commercial airline pilot, I think of listing a home as flying from Hong Kong to Paris, and there's some phases to the flight. There's the pre-flight, there's the performance calculations, there's the route choice and the waypoints, there's the pre-inspection and the walkthrough, there's the starting of the engine, the pre-starting of the engine, there's the request to take off, there's the takeoff procedure, there's the after takeoff procedure, there's the en route. You get the point. There's a step, there's a procedure for every step along the path of flying an airplane, taking off to landing at your destination. Your agents need the same level of detail to list a home. And as a team leader, you need the same level of detail to know where they're at and where they're falling down. See, profit isn't in doing more, it's doing less of skipping steps. Your profit is in your errors and your mistakes. And when I say you, I mean your team. So if I was going to build a procedure today, I would start with step one of listing a home, and that would be talking on the phone. And if I'm talking to the phone on the phone with a homeowner, I would have some very specific questions that I want my team agents to say each and every time. I've narrowed it down to 7 critical questions that must be asked on the phone prior to an appointment. Now, there's hundreds of questions that they should ask or can ask, but there's 7 critical questions. What are those critical questions you want to be asked on the phone? See, we give people scripts and we want them to talk on the phone and stay on the phone for longer, but really in the essence of the phone call as a team leader, what do you want to ask? If I'm talking to a buyer, do I want to build rapport? Yes. What questions do I want to build rapport? I don't know. There's thousands. But if I'm reviewing someone's phone call and I have a procedure to talking to the buyer, I want to make sure they ask them, do you own or do you rent? That's a very critical question. I want to know prior to going to a showing. I might say a critical question is, are you only interested in this home or would you consider other great deals? That's a critical question that I want asked every single time. Now, if I'm talking to a homeowner on the phone, a critical question is, what's the address? See, this sounds so simple that you are going to assume your agents are always asking that very simple question. But oftentimes they don't even ask what the address is, because if I'm on the phone with a homeowner and I don't ask what their address is, and I don't get the appointment, I get off the phone and I don't even know where they live. See how critical that is? I've listened to thousands and thousands of phone calls. I've trained thousands and thousands of agents, and I've heard them not get the appointment Therefore, they don't get the address. Now, if they get the appointment, they get the address, but that's the wrong order. See, sales and procedures is like a combination to a safe. If you put the numbers in the wrong order, the safe doesn't open up. So I have a critical question. You must ask, what is the address? Now, if you want, because I have that as a critical question, I can build off of that question and say, the follow-up question could be, it's optional. This isn't mandatory. The other one is required, but this one is optional. Do you own any other properties? Very great way to do this. So this is how you build a procedure, a script, and you can train on that. So now I can listen to all the phone calls. Did you ask the address? The critical questions, required information. The second question could be, this is required in my world. How long have you owned it? Now, if I have their address, could I look up when they bought it? Yes, I could. But in my world, working with other human beings in this business, I want that question asked over the phone. Very critical. I want my agents to know that before they go to the appointment. So you see the level of detail it takes, and that takes thought. You can't just show up at your team meeting and just charismatically come up with brilliance. And even if you did come up with brilliance at your team meeting, if it's not in writing, and you can't repeat it, and if it's not in writing, you can't onboard it. So these things are very, very important. So build your procedures, train relentlessly, and empower your agents to enact, implement, take action on the procedures. And in further videos, you'll find out, how do I hold them accountable to these things? How do I correct that behavior? How do I retrain people? Right? How do I hold them to that standard? And how do I distill these things down to the most important things that matter in the conversion process and the revenue process? Because if you think about everything we do to sell a home, there's probably only a handful of things that actually make a difference to revenue. When you think, I want to be a better closer, I want better, higher conversion, there are really only 3 to 4 critical points of a conversation, an appointment, or a transaction or a listing that matter, that move the needle greatly. I mean, obviously, pricing, but pricing is only critical if you get the listing. So obviously, listing. And what's critical to revenue is commission. So obviously, commissions, but they go together. There's an interplay between this dance of acquiring the client, getting the listing documents, getting the pricing, getting the commission, and having them all come together in a fashion that benefits the team and the team's growth. And so these things are important. I'm committed to team growth 100%. I helped build one of the top real estate team platforms in North America that was acquired. And now I'm moving on to all things team growth. If it has to do with team growth, I'm there. Team growth is building that team, growing that team, making that team more profitable, and finally, having a team, a business, an enterprise that serves you in the life that you want to live for more freedom, opportunity, advancement, ancillary business, enterprise, expansion. Maybe, like me, riding my bike more.